Uh, wow, what a pay-per-view that was. An incredible outing by AEW. I was not surprised that it was a great pay-per-view, but I was surprised at just how fantastic each match was. It felt like the match placement was well done. The crowd was electric. The crowd was fantastic the entire night. Everyone was lively. For I've been to AEW pay-per-views in LA before. I went to AEW AEW Full Gear in 2023, and that card wasn't amazing looking back at it, but there was, of course, that Swerve and Hangman Texas Death Match that was out of this world. And the crowd in Inglewood, California at the Kia Forum was pretty solid the entire night, but I don't really remember the crowd being as electric as it was last night. I also did attend Revolution 2025 last year, which was in the same arena, the Crypto.com arena. I actually scratched at the Staples Center. Um, and it was a good show. Obviously, there were a lot of great matches on that card. Everybody and everything. And when I tell you she was screaming, okay, yeah, we're okay. Sorry about that. As I was saying, in my section, there was a lady screaming at the top of her lungs. Like her throat was, when people yell really loud, it kind of like vibrates and you can tell they're gonna lose their voice. That's how she was screaming, but it was insane. She did not lose her voice the entire night. She was the loudest person in our section the entire night, and that kept through the entire night. Like, she was as loud in the beginning of the show as she was at the end, which is respectable for sure. There were some people in my section that were not a fan of her screaming, but I enjoyed it because I was very tired yesterday and I didn't have a bunch of energy, and her energy was very contagious. When the show started and she was just screaming, I felt very comfortable to chant things. Uh, in comparison to last year, where everyone in my section was completely quiet, so chanting felt very awkward. So that's something about this year's Revolution that exceeded last year's. In terms of the matches, I'm sure you could go over last year's card and say last year was better. Though I personally believe that this year knocked last year out of the water. There was just a consistent nature about this show where every match was good and every match flowed well. Whereas last year there were great matches, but the flow of the show wasn't as smooth as this year. So that being said, let's go right into Revolution 2026. We're going to start with the 0 hour, I almost said pre-show. I guess it's the same thing. Right now I'm looking at photos from JJ Williams on Twitter or X, whatever. So be sure to check his page out. All these photos are obviously his, so all credit goes to him. I just wanted to have a visual here, because that's how I like to do things. It makes things easier for me. So yeah, as we have here the Revolution stage, I thought the stage looked pretty cool. It wasn't anything that blew my mind. It was kind of regular in terms of AEW pay-per-views. Though I did like this little like split screen, the multiple panels that they had. I thought that was an interesting idea and it was executed well. They had plenty of graphics when people won championships that looked amazing. I'm sure if you watched the pay-per-view, you know what I'm talking about. But it was very well done. I thought the stage looked nice. The graphics looked really cool. And the pyro was cool as always. So yeah, that was enjoyable. And the 0 hour started, of course, with Jeff Jarrett, Renee Paquette, and RJ City kind of going over things. Though, if I remember correctly, their mics were not on for the arena. So we didn't hear them talking at all, which is kind of awkward considering they did do a lot of talking in the beginning of the 0 hour. Though it wasn't too long, they kind of got right into the pre-show matches, which I appreciated. And the first match was RJ City, or excuse me, Big Boom AJ and QT Marshall taking on the Infantry Carly Bravo and Sean Dean. And of course, Shane Taylor was at ringside alongside Christian XO, who's someone I'm not familiar with, or I was not familiar with until I watched this. Trish Adora was there, someone who's very underrated in my book. They were all at the side of the infantry. And of course, Big Boom AJ and QT Marshall come out with Big Justice, the son of AJ, I believe, and the Rizzler, who's just over. The crowd was in love with this kid as soon as he came out, which is, yeah, his charisma is very um endearing. It reminds me of like a little cousin that you have or something like that, you know? So that's something that I really liked about this match was the little family dynamic between these guys. I thought that was adorable. And the match was entertaining too. There was a lot of pretty solid wrestling throughout, nothing too crazy. There was a moment where the the Rizzler goes up to Christian XO and he does his pose, and Christian XO like boops him on the nose, like, "Oh, aren't you a cute little kid?" I thought that was a funny moment. And then Shane Taylor actually pushed the Rizzler to the floor, pushed this little kid on the floor. That was a great heel moment. Yeah, great way to hype the crowd up right out of the gate. The crowd was right into it as soon as these Big Boom guys came out. Yeah, and I'm okay with them doing pre-show matches every few pay-per-views or so, because the crowd loves them. The energy was infectious as soon as they came out, and it really set a tone for the rest of the show. And as soon as that happened, I was like very surprised that the crowd was as lively as they were from the jump. Next up on the 0 hour, though, was a match that I think is going to go kind of under the radar. It wasn't anything too spectacular, but I thought Lena Kross and Willow Nightingale had a very good match. I'm a very huge fan of Lena Kross, the very little that I've seen of her so far. Her match with Mina Shirakawa on Collision was very good. The jackhammer finisher that she does is better than Goldberg's at this point. That's what I'm going with. But yeah, she just looks ferocious. She looks cool. When she's on camera, you can't help but look. You can't take your eyes off of her, which is something about Willow that is very similar to Lena Kross in that regard. They're both extremely charismatic, obviously in different ways. Willow, the best babyface in AEW, maybe a couple years now. Her character development has been fantastic, going from a singles wrestler fairly new to the company to going and beating someone like Mercedes and other companies in New Japan, and then winning the CMLL Women's World Championships. She was just kind of collecting belts, adding accolades to her career, which is something that I appreciate considering she isn't going to win the AEW World title yet. You know, adding to her resume just makes her more legitimate as an athlete, as a professional wrestler. And obviously she's very endearing. Everyone loves her. I love her. She's probably my favorite wrestler in AEW when it comes to like just a character. She's someone that I'm extremely invested in. I want to see her take the world title very soon. In terms of the match, though, it was just really solid work. Lena Kross was dominating Willow for a bit, and Willow escaped with a roll-up pin that looked really nice. And yeah, cool to see Willow keep the TBS championship. When it comes to the tag team belts, we'll get to that in a moment. But I'm happy that Willow kept the TBS title. Next up on the pre-show was the last 0 hour match, a battle royal for the national title, which of course Ricochet was holding. And it started kind of awkwardly because everyone in the match was on the outside of the ring and they started brawling. There was a lot of brawling on the outside for the first few minutes. It felt kind of disorienting, though it was an interesting setup to the match, I guess, but I wasn't a huge fan of that. It just felt kind of weird. You know, when you start a battle royal, the visual of having so many people in the ring is really something that I enjoy about these matches. Though the battle royal itself wasn't anything too crazy. I would say the standouts were Leo Rush, who debuted a new a gimmick, I suppose. It was, I guess I just gotta show you to believe it. He's wearing eye contacts, and I believe he's known as Blackheart or something like that on the indies. So he debuted that character. Though he looked insane, if I'm being real with you. He was doing this like almost panther run on all fours around the ring. It looked really crazy. Yeah, as you can see in his profile picture, he looks wild. Yeah, I mean, I think it's a cool look. I think it's different for sure. It'll take some getting used to, but it definitely stood out to me when I saw him running on all fours around the ring and then hitting his signature high speed dive, his tope suicida. So very good work. The other standout in this match was probably Tommaso Ciampa. He eliminated a lot of people in this match, and he looked fantastic. He continues to look great. And Ricochet, Jack Perry were the last two in this match. El Clone was in there till the end as well. And Jack Perry ended up eliminating Ricochet with a Poison Rana on the apron. That looked freaking brutal. Pretty good match. It bled into the main show, so we started Revolution with Jack Perry winning a championship in his hometown, so that's pretty cool, I guess. I'm not a huge fan of Jack Perry, but I'm not against him by any means. His matches are always pretty good. But, yeah, hopefully Jack Perry continues what Ricochet was establishing with his title, wrestling with it on the indies, wrestling at Rev Pro. I believe he wrestled in Ring of Honor. So yeah, stuff like that I would like to see Jack Perry do. It would just kind of help him hone his skills a little bit more. Okay, let's jump to the main card now. The opening match, surprisingly, was FTR versus the Young Bucks for the Tag Team Championships. I was not expecting this match to open the show, but wow, what an opener this match was. It really blew me away how fantastic of a tag team match this was. Obviously, the Young Bucks came out with their family, which was a nice moment. Their kids did some gymnastics in the ring, and there was a really nice moment during the match that I'll get to in a second. And FTR came out in their tracksuits, kind of sporting the green. I don't know if that was a reference to their to when they dressed up like the luchadores. I think they were called like laranas or something like that. The frogs. My Spanish is not fantastic. But yeah, the match, right out of the gate, they were very aggressive with each other, which rightfully so. This is a personal conflict at this point, with FTR attacking the Young Bucks family. And the Young Bucks had, obviously, their family at ringside, which added a spicy element, I suppose. FTR were beating the heck out of Nick Jackson, and Nick Jackson got busted open. He got busted open well. He had a crimson mask, as it's well known. And yeah, it looked great. There was blood all over the ring, and this just added a really huge jolts of energy to the match right away. And it allowed for the crowd to really sympathize with the Young Bucks, which made the match even better. The in-ring work was fantastic, probably their best match together, if I'm being real with you guys. I think their match all the way back in 2020 was really good. Their All-In match was okay. And I believe they had another match that I'm forgetting, but I would have to go watch it back to make a final decision. But yeah, this match was fantastic. The obviously vintage Young Bucks and FTR offense, the Young Bucks doing lots of flips and super kicks, and FTR doing a lot of punches and slams. And FTR did pick up the win here, though there was a moment, false finish with the Tony Khan driver, the tombstone position that Matt Jackson holds the opponent in, and then Nick Jackson flips to add a kind of extra oomph on it. I really thought that was the end of the match, but it was not. And the whole crowd bid on it. It was really well done. And what ended the match actually was a super shatter machine off the top rope that looked really cool. There was a moment where Stokely got involved and he jumped out of the wheelchair. And there were people in the crowd, they were like, hey, like, hold up, he doesn't need that wheelchair. So I thought that was a nice moment. Then FTR wins. The Young Bucks are on the outside, bloodied and beat up. Oh, before I get to that, though, something I forgot to mention was Matt Jackson's on the outside, and he's beat up. He's almost out of this match, and he goes up to his son, and his son grabs him by the head, and he's like, don't give up, stay in the match or whatever. I thought that was really cool. So, yes, FTR did win this match, surprisingly. Then the Copeland Christian connection returned. Adam Copeland and Christian Cage. Copeland came out to a massive pop. I want to say maybe the biggest pop of the night. It was really cool to see them together again, for sure. Being a pretty much lifelong fan of wrestling, I obviously grew up watching Adam Copeland, formerly known as Edge. So it was cool to see them. Watching them face off with the Young Bucks, this is definitely a match I would like to see. We are more than likely getting that Christian and Copeland rematch with FTR sooner rather than later. Though having all three teams in this segment definitely teases a three-way possibility, maybe a ladder match or something like that. I've seen people mention. I would like to see that. I think you could easily have a triple threat rivalry for a bit and then kind of bleed into just doing tag team versus tag team. I mean, you could run matches with the three of these teams for the rest of the year easily. I think that's a little bit excessive, but it could be done. So yeah, Copeland and Christian, they come back, look fantastic. They look like they're in great shape. Copeland has the longer hair. I hope he keeps growing it out. I think he's always looked better with long hair. And yeah, I'm excited to see what they do next. Hopefully we do get Copeland and Christian versus the Young Bucks 2-on-2 very soon. Next up, we had Toni Storm and Marina Shafir. This match was actually very solid, a lot better than I was expecting it to be, considering Marina Shafir doesn't have a ton of experience with one-on-one pay-per-view matches. But Toni Storm is literally one of the best, if not the best, women's wrestler in the world. So putting her in the ring with anybody, you're going to get at least a good match. Toni Storm comes out in this beautiful attire. She's a massive superstar. Everyone loves her. I had a lot of fun chanting Toni Storm and, cheering for her during this match. She's one of my favorite characters in all of wrestling. So she's very easy to root for, very easy to watch. She's extremely entertaining. Marina Shafir obviously comes out to her Death Riders theme coming out through the crowd. I don't like her theme song at all. I think it's very abrasive, but that's whatever. So yeah, Marina Shafir attacks Toni Storm right out of the gate with a big boot to the face. And yeah, she just really beats the hell out of Toni Storm for a lot of this match. Then Toni Storm makes a comeback, hits her finisher. Marina Shafir kicks out, which was surprising to see. And then Toni Storm hits her with a headbutt and then with the roll-up pin, which is a cool finish. It keeps Marina protected, and it makes Toni Storm look very intelligent. After the match, though, someone enters the ring. They're wearing a red jacket. They take the jacket off, and they start pointing at Toni Storm. They don't show this person on the screen for a little bit, like enough for everyone in the crowd to be like, yeah, well, like what's going on? Who is that? At least the people, far back where I was sitting. And Ronda Rousey enters the ring. She points at Toni Storm, and I was very surprised. I was very shocked to see Ronda Rousey in AEW. I know she did wrestle a match in Ring of Honor with Marina Shafir, but it was a great moment. I'm not, and rightfully so. She has said some dumb things over the years, but it seems like, from what I've heard and read, Ronda Rousey's just kind of coming in casually, making appearances now and then. I don't think she's going to be a full-time wrestler there. She didn't get like an all elite graphic or anything like that, so I guess that's cool. I think Toni Storm versus Ronda Rousey, it's not going to be like a 5-star match or anything, but it's obviously a marquee match, something that AEW can get a lot of attention off of. So it's obviously understandable why you would bring Ronda Rousey in. I mean, she's one of the most well-known, recognizable women's athletes of all time at the end of the day. So yeah, it's interesting, I suppose. I'm not happy about it, I guess, but I was definitely shocked. Okay, next match was Konosuke Takeshita versus Jon Moxley. I thought this was really well done, the way that they did this. The Shafir and Toni Storm segment ends with Rousey and Shafir looking strong. Toni Storm's laid out by Shafir. There's refs and security in the ring to keep Toni Storm and Rousey apart. And then Shafir and Rousey are exiting through the crowd, and they go to the tunnel. Then Moxley's music hits. At first I was confused. I thought it was just like Shafir's music or something. Then they show Moxley coming out, dapping up the rest of the Death Riders pack, Daniel Garcia and Wheeler Yuta. And he comes out, huge pop. Everyone loves Moxley. And then Takeshita comes out to a great pop as well. Great reception. I was really hoping, oh man, I was very hyped watching this match, and then the finish came. I was really hoping Takeshita would win this match, that he would win the Continental Championship, but you can't win them all, right? I thought the match itself was very good, probably better than their Grand Slam Australia match, but yeah, it's just the finish was very deflating. They were going back and forth, trading false finishes. The Raging Fire through, or not through anything, just onto the mat, I thought would be the finish. I don't believe many people, if anyone, has kicked out of Takeshita's finisher, the Raging Fire, the Falcon Arrow. But Moxley did kick out, and then Takeshita did kick out of John Moxley's finisher, the Death Rider. And he did kick out of a Death Rider from the top rope. So he was protected. Takeshita did look good coming out of it, I suppose, but I think Takeshita should have just won the championship here. Moxley chokes out Takeshita. Takeshita gives him the middle finger, shows defiance until the end, but Takeshita does lose the match. Then Moxley extends the hand for the handshake, but Takeshita kind of hesitates. He walks out of the ring, and then comes back and shakes Moxley's hand, which the crowd did like, which is understandable. I think we all want to see Takeshita as a babyface, but we kind of need to hurry up with this. I would like to see on Wednesday Takeshita get kicked out of the Don Callis family so we can get to that Okada match. You don't even have to do the Okada match right away. You can have Takeshita feud with the Don Callis family, maybe join the side of the Death Riders in a multi-man match. I think that would be interesting. I think Takeshita has teamed up with Moxley and Claudio before, against the Elite many years ago. So the relationship is there, and obviously after the handshake, they're buddy-buddy, at least more so than they were before. And Moxley does look great with his Continental belt. When he's holding it, the belt feels important, which I think is why he's continuing to hold it. There are many more people that Moxley can have matches with, and if he did lose the title here, where would Moxley go after this? Does he continue to fight for the belt? Does he go back to the world title scene? So it does make sense for him to keep the title at least for a little bit longer. And Moxley looked great in this match. Takeshita looked great, but we do need to get Takeshita winning a championship soon. Hopefully that happens sooner rather than later. I would like to see Takeshita beat Okada, maybe win the C2 later this year. Then after the match, surprisingly, we get a video package. We've gotten many video packages over the weeks hyping Will Ospreay's return. And he did finally return. Unfortunately, I was walking to the bathroom when his music hit. I was trying to get to the bathroom as quickly as I could as soon as the match ended so that I can get back to my seat before the next match started. I could have ran back to my seat, but I was like, hey, I've seen Ospreay wrestle before. It's just knowing that he's back in AEW, that he's going to start wrestling again soon, it's good enough for me. But the crowd, what a pop. Maybe almost as loud as Adam Copeland's pop. But the video package itself was very interesting. He was kind of in this chamber, very Dragon Ball-esque in the healing chamber, but also it had an element of the Green Goblin from Spider-Man 2002. So that was cool. I'm excited to see what Ospreay does, more than likely feuding with the Death Riders for a month or two. Will he win the Continental Championship off of Moxley? I suppose you could do that, but isn't Ospreay gonna start fighting for the world title soon? So I don't really see that happening, but I wouldn't be surprised if Ospreay wins that belt. Maybe a Dynasty. Next up, probably, unfortunately, the worst match of the night. It was only 5 minutes long, so it wasn't anything. It didn't overstay its welcome, and it did what it needed to. It got the tag team championships onto Lena, Kross, and Megan Bayne. Unfortunately, this is more than likely the end of Babes of Wrath, depending on how you view them. I'm not a huge fan of the group. I would much rather see Willow in singles action, but it was good while it lasted. I think it was a lot more successful than people had anticipated. So that's cool to see. Good for Harley Cameron, good for Willow. And I think it's a memorable thing that they'll look back on in their careers. They looked really sad in their interview before this match when Renee Paquette went up to Willow and basically was asking her, like, oh, are you cleared to wrestle in this match because Lena Kross and Megan Bayne attacked you in the pre-show? And Willow was basically defiant, basically saying, I'm here. Let's do this. But you could tell they were holding back tears because they were about to lose these championships, and it may be the end of their tag team run. But Lena Kross and Megan Bayne do win the titles. They do have a new tag team name. It is the Divine something. I'm unfortunately forgetting at this moment. But cool tag team. Their new Tron looks good. And as a package deal, I mean, them holding the tag team championships together just looks fantastic. They look very dominating. Megan Bayne, I'm a huge fan of. She just pops the heck out of me. Her theme song is very intimidating. Whenever she comes out, there's a atmosphere in the air that you don't get with many other women. And after the match, as soon as the bell rings, Megan Bayne turns to the camera and she says, "What did you expect to happen?" Like, with such attitude. I really like that. But yeah, that was a quick tag team match. Nothing special. Definitely the weakest match on the main card. Next up, we did have Swerve, Strickland, and Brody King in a very good, hard-hitting match. Not outstanding compared to a lot of the other matches on this card, but I thought it was very well done. It was interesting to see Brody King lose this match, I suppose, though I was expecting Swerve to win. There was a great spot where they go to the outside and Swerve takes off the protective padding on the floor. And they're teasing, slamming each other on this. I think Brody King did end up slamming Swerve on this unprotected floor, if I remember correctly. And then Swerve hit a vertebraker on Brody King on the outside onto the unprotected floor. Just looked insanely brutal. I was shocked to see Brody King kick out at 1 after that, but I understood it. Brody King did a I won't go down spot after Swerve hit him multiple times. Then Swerve hits him with the house call for the win. Then after the match, Swerve continues to lay into Brody King. And of course, Bandido's busy getting ready for his match. So who's going to come out and save Brody King from Swerve's wrath? It was none other than Kenny Omega making his return to AEW after a short absence. So looks like we're going to continue this Swerve and Kenny Omega rivalry, which I'm loving that. I think their first match was fantastic, one of the best matches of this year so far. So getting them in a more personal conflict, telling more stories, and getting more matches out of this, I think is great. Hopefully at Dynasty we will get Kenny Omega and Swerve Strickland for like 30 minutes or something. I think that'd be fantastic. The next match was Thekla and Kris Statlander for the AEW women's title, in a 2 out of 3 falls match. Thekla looked great. There was a video package before she made her entrance where she was speaking in her native language. I thought that looked fantastic. It looked it set a tone for the match. Statlander came out looking cool. She had some eye makeup that looked pretty cool, very reminiscent of some 80s wrestlers. And yes, it's fantastic match. It just unfortunately where it was placed on the card, the crowd was a little tired at this point. There were a lot of people kind of taking a break. But the match was very good. There was a spot where Thekla tries to use her belt to whip Statlander. The referee takes it away. Oh, here's a picture of Kenny Omega making his return after that Swerve and Brody King match. During the match, Thekla knocks the referee outside of the ring. And she takes his belt. It looked really comedic, really awkward, her trying to take the belt off of the referee. You could tell the referee was trying to like move his hips into position to make it easier for her. It just looked really, really funny, really goofy. Then the Sisters of Sin, Sky Blue, and Julia Hart came out and helped Thekla secure the TBS division for now. But of course, you could keep her in the world title division and just have her fight, someone else for now. The next match, one of my favorite matches on this card, not in terms of the in-ring quality or anything like that. It's not like this match was better than other matches objectively, but wow, watching Mistico in person as a Mexican American, um, it meant something to me, man. Like, I don't know if you ever seen that meme of that guy crying. This means something to me, man. That's how I felt in the crowd. Just seeing him in person is very surreal almost because he's one of the more famous luchadores to ever do it, but definitely of the last 20 years or so. So seeing him with Jetspeed, Kevin Knight, and Mike Bailey, two of the best wrestlers in AEW in the world, quite frankly, it really warms my heart because the diversity there and three great wrestlers. I think it's a very cool visual. And speaking of great visuals, Kevin Knight and Mike Bailey came out donning Mystico's mask, and they did wrestle a lot of the match wearing the masks. And I thought that was awesome. I thought that was really cool. Seeing Mike Bailey and Kevin Knight wrestle in a mask is very interesting because they wrestle almost like luchadores anyway. So seeing them don masks, it very much popped me. I thought that was awesome. The match itself was really good. Lots of dives, lots of hard hitting. Of course, they were wrestling Kazuchika Okada, Kyle Fletcher, and Mark Davis. The Don Callis family did enter donning the varsity jackets that said DZF on the back. Kyle Fletcher coming out in pink, Okada in red, and Mark Davis came out in yellow, and he had the word dangerous written on his trunks, which is an homage to the wrestler Kawada from Japan, who I'm somewhat familiar with, but I can't really say, oh, go watch this match, or I'm a huge fan of his. But I am very much aware of his influence on professional wrestlers of today. The match was fantastic, just great trios action. It's matches like these that make you realize why there is a trios division in AEW. It's always high speed, high octane, I believe that is the right term. And it's just fun. You get to see 6 good wrestlers in the ring. And tag team wrestling is fantastic in general, but when you get good tag team wrestling, it's some of the best wrestling ever. And when you add another person in that and make it a trios match, it can get too jumbled up, it can get too disorganized, or it can be something very good. And that's what this match was. Of course, Mistico winning a championship in AEW was not something I expected at all. Him winning with Jetspeed was unexpected for sure. I hope this stream is not too glitchy. It says my Wi-Fi is kind of acting up. I'm going to try to fix that in the coming weeks. But please bear with me. I hope that it's nothing too disorienting or anything that affects the stream too much. But back to AEW Revolution. Mistico and Jetspeed win the Trios Championships. And the music hits Me Muero. Really awesome to see so many Mexican people in the crowd singing along to this. It warmed my heart. It made me proud to be a Mexican. And then after Mistico wins the championship, Kevin Knight's music is playing because he's the one who picked up the fall. Fantastic finish, by the way. Mistico hits La Mystica on Kyle Fletcher, I believe. So he's yanking on his arm. Then Kevin Knight hits the UFO splash over Mistico and Kyle Fletcher onto Mark Davis for the 1-2-3. So Kevin Knight's music is playing. The new team of Jetspeed and Mistico are celebrating. Then, out of nowhere, we get this graphic on the screen, and the crowd, what a pop. What a moment. I almost cried, honestly. Not because I'm the hugest fan of Mistico, but just what he means to wrestling. Having him get that graphic, and as a huge fan of AEW, just really, it was something. It was something to witness for sure, live and in person. So the next match, we're getting into the last 3 matches of this show. If you are enjoying this stream, if you are watching after, please leave a like and subscribe if you have not already. I would very much appreciate it. But wow, what a match this was. Maybe my favorite match of the night, other than the tag team match to open the show. Bandido and Andrade El Idolo. Not only was this match fantastic, but I thought it established Andrade further as a top guy. He obviously did his spot where he goes up to women and flirts with them and takes a selfie, puts his phone number in. He did this with 2 women, actually. I was like, wow, you greedy man. I was like, one is not enough. But you know what? Real Latino man. Fair enough. The match itself, really, maybe my favorite work on the entire card. Lots of gymnastics, lots of flipping inside the ring, but also lots of planchas and lots of suicide dives. Bandido came out donning Super Dragon's mask, who has a lot to do with the indies in California, PWG in particular, which if you're familiar, I'm sure you know that was something that meant something to you. Unfortunately, I was not someone that watched Super Dragon while he wrestled, but I thought that was a really cool homage. This event being in Los Angeles and all. And Bandido did lose, unfortunately, but there were plenty of memorable moments in this match that I think is good enough to make Bandido look good coming out of this. There was a 21 plex, which is his finisher, where he flips onto his opponent from the ropes, then flips back and hits the German suplex. Bandido was laid out on his stomach, and he did that, flipped back and just picked up Andrade from the floor and suplexed him. That was a great moment. His Bandido's dives always look good. Andrade looked fantastic. This is probably the best Andrade has looked since his NXT run as world champion, in my opinion. So I'm very much excited to End of Heartache by Killswitch Engage, which is a song that I very much like, and the crowd was singing along to that as well. Then Darby Allin comes out. He skates down a ramp from the parking lot, then comes out with his skateboard. The dogs make their entrance with a new theme song, I believe, and new just visual package in general, which looked really good. Clark Connors hits a massive spear on Darby Allin that just looked insanely brutal. Darby Allin standing on the apron, and Clark Connors comes through the ropes, very similar to a spot that Big E used to do. But instead of kind of floating together onto the outside, he just straight up like a spear. Right to the floor they went. It looked very brutal. But I guess you don't expect anything less from Darby Allin. He's always going to do these spots that make you wince. David Finlay looked like a superstar. He's someone that I'm sure will be a top guy for years to come. And Clark Connors looked fantastic as well. Gabe Kidd looked pretty good. He's always looking like a maniac. But I think Clark Connors and David Finlay kind of balance this group out and add more of a tactical element to this group that I think was needed, because Gabe Kidd's just too aggressive. He's like a cat bouncing off the wall, like just 24 hours a day. So I think the group going forward will be a lot better than it was in December. The team of Allin, Cassidy, and Roderick Strong do win this match. There was a spot where Darby Allin was tied to the corner with the tag rope, and he was there for like 5 minutes or so. He was there so long to the point where Roderick Strong and Cassidy are making their comeback, beating up the dogs, but Darby Allin's still tied up, and the crowd starts chanting, "Please help Darby." They eventually do. Then Darby hits his patented offense, and Gabe Kidd and Darby Allin walk to the ramp, and Gabe Kidd is on the next to the ramp in the lower area, and Darby Allin hits him with the skateboard, and it looked really cool. But I was surprised to see Darby Allin, Orange Cassidy, and Roderick Strong pick up the win here. I was very much expecting the Dogs to win, considering they are a new team, and you would like to further establish them as a dominant presence. But I was not against Darby, Orange, and Roderick winning. You know, these are 3 guys you want to keep strong because, no pun intended, these are 3 guys you want to keep strong because you can feud them with any heel on the roster. So giving them a win every now and then makes sense. And it gives the Dogs something to retaliate for going forward. More than likely, we'll get a rematch between these 6 men. Darby, Orange, Roderick Strong, and the Dogs. Maybe at the next pay-per-view, and you have the Dogs pick up the win there. So I was a little bit confused that the Dogs did lose, but I wasn't upset about it or anything. You know, it is what it is. The last match was MJF and Hangman Adam Page for the AEW World Championship. This match was long. It was 45 minutes about, and it was very slow pace. Lots of weapons obviously being used, this being a Texas death match. And MJF comes out in full Terry Funk cosplay, which, oh man, I'm conflicted about it because I love Terry Funk, and MJF in character obviously is doing this to disrespect Terry Funk. So I was just like, oh, you son of a b. I was not a fan of that. But it added an interesting element right out of the gate. It made me want Hangman to win more, even though I don't like Hangman anymore for reasons. The match itself was extremely brutal. Glass being used, a broom broken in half and stabbed into Hangman's head looked very disgusting. There was a spot, speaking of disgusting, where MJF pulls out a syringe, jams it into Hangman's mouth, into his cheek, and presses it so there's water just squirting out of Hangman's cheek. Oof, I didn't like that. I did not like that. But obviously there were a lot of reruns in terms of spots in this match. Hangman and Swerve in their cage match of death and the Texas death match that Swerve and Hangman had, lots of spots being repeated, which isn't a bad thing inherently, but, you know, it is what it is. That is something to keep in mind when watching this match, I suppose. MJF was skewered. This was a spot I was not expecting to happen. This is something that Moxley usually does. So yeah, seeing MJF, someone who's very adamant about not wanting to be in these types of situations, in these types of matches, I thought that was a cool comeuppance moment for the heel. MJF eventually does win the match. There was a spot where the crowd started chanting, "We want fire," and Hangman's walking around basically saying, well, who's got a lighter? And of course, I'm sure there were some people that had a lighter, but that was a pretty smooth way to get out of it, to get out of that chant, because the people were adamant they wanted fire. There was a spot where Hangman sets up a board of barbed wire on top of a table. That looked very brutal. Eventually, Hangman pulls out a chain. Well, what we think is a chain. Then it turns out to be a dog collar. So for about half of this match, Hangman and MJF were tied up together in a dog collar. So this turned from a Texas death match into a dog collar match, which I thought was cool, because the Texas death match thing, I was watching and I was honestly ready to go home. Like, the match, it was kind of slow. It wasn't too crazy, just kind of shock spots, which I'm not a huge fan of. I prefer like actual matches, but I have nothing against anybody that very much enjoyed this, because it was a spectacle. It was something to remember for sure. So Hangman does lose here, which means he will never be able to fight for the AEW World Championship again. Tony Khan did mention that it was on a handshake deal, a verbal agreement between Hangman and Tony Khan. So you could always have Hangman go back on his word, you know, turn heel and take the championship through nefarious means. I think that would be an interesting way to get the title back on Hangman, actually. But like I said on our last stream, there are so many championships in AEW now that you could easily have Hangman hold the TNT championship for like 6 months or so and really have a go at it of elevating that championship to another level. So I'm interested to see where Hangman goes after this. As for MJF, there are so many more opponents that he can wrestle. Obviously, Will Ospreay just returned, and there are plenty other wrestlers that MJF can wrestle, and more than likely will, before he drops this championship. I expect MJF to probably drop this by Double or Nothing or All In. If he does hold it until Double or Nothing, I definitely see AEW just saying, okay, just keep it on him until All In. And MJF is doing fantastic work. Definitely the best work of his career so far. I think he's kind of evolved into the best version of himself as a wrestler. His character work has always been solid, but now the entire package is just very good. And that's something that's understated about MJF is the way he has improved over the last 2 years. Wow, what a pay-per-view this was. I was very much blown away by the quality of this card and the consistency throughout the night. Not only of the wrestling, but the crowd's engagement with it. The crowd was fantastic. Los Angeles, LA isn't always known for the best crowd. Sometimes there's a lot of pretentious people there, where people are just tired. It's not always the best crowd, unfortunately, in LA. But last night was very much different, especially compared to last year's Revolution show. I thought the crowd was extremely electric throughout the entire night. I'm hoping that this continues to be a trend with LA crowds for AEW going forward. During something I did see about the press conference was Tony Khan was asked about running SoFi Stadium, which is the football stadium in LA. And that arena or stadium, I believe, fits about 60 to maybe like 75,000 people. I've personally never been in that stadium, but Tony Khan was into the idea and he said it's not something out of the realm of possibility. With there being no WrestleMania in America next year, WrestleMania will be taking place in Saudi Arabia. I think it makes all the sense in the world to run your biggest show in LA or somewhere else in the States. I think you can get a great audience. Obviously, we know last year with AEW Allin Texas, the crowd was fantastic there. Very loud crowd too. So yeah, I think if LA continues to show out and they continue to have great crowds like last night, I would be happy to have a big stadium show in LA. I would definitely be there. So yes, ladies and gentlemen, and everyone in between, I think that's gonna do it for our AEW Revolution review. If you do have any thoughts, definitely leave them in the chat. I would love to get your thoughts on the show and create more of a dialogue. If you did enjoy the show or if you did enjoy the stream, please leave a comment or like and subscribe, all those good things. We are a new channel. I took a long hiatus for a few years. I just was not into making content anymore. It was kind of affecting my relationship with wrestling, but luckily I've kind of figured out a balance and that's helped. So yeah, I will be streaming again on Saturday more than likely, maybe some time during the week as well. If I do, I will let you guys know. I was expecting to go a little bit longer, but there's not much else I have to say about Revolution. The live experience was fantastic. There were many people in the crowd that I will remember because of what they chanted and how long they were chanting. And yeah, just a great crowd, great show. I'm excited for Dynamite this week. I wonder where we're going to go next. I know Dynasty is just a few weeks away, so I will be doing a review show for that. Expect me to do these review shows for AEW, Ring of Honor, and more than likely New Japan. I will be reviewing those shows maybe like a day after the pay-per-view airs. Maybe night of if I'm able to. But thank you very much for watching. If you did stop by, I hope you have a great day and a great week. But yeah, I will see you next time.